Welcome back, everybody. Today, obviously, is well, if you clicked on the title, you know what it is. If you're new here, you might not know what it is. But today is Tackle Tip Tuesday. I do these based on things I use on a regular basis to try to better explain them in deep detail to you guys. So stay tuned. Alright guys, welcome back. Obviously, it's Tackle Tip Tuesday, just like I said in the intro. The big thing here I want to go over is what I was catching this last Sunday. I will link that video at the end of this one so that you guys can kind of correspond what I'm saying and get a better understanding of like the actual how-to and what I did to use these baits. Today, we are going to go over casting tubes, these little guys that a lot of people overlook for white bass. Alright, so like I was saying, big thing here is we're casting for white bass. This isn't slip bobber fishing, this isn't jerk bait fishing. This is casting tubes, these little guys, which I'll show you guys a lot closer up stuff in detail after I go over a few things. So, one, if you watched Sunday's video, obviously if you didn't, you're going to have to watch it to kind of get a better understanding of what I'm talking about. If you watch Sunday's video, you're going to basically see me do one of two things. I'm going to be reeling it in real fast with a few pops here and there, or I'm going to be doing this weird thing where it's like a float pop. And this video isn't going to be very long, just so you guys know, but I'm going to kind of go into detail of like the necessities that you need to use if you see white bass. These ones were schooling. They might have been just getting done spawning actually. So that's kind of like a benefit to me, is they were just getting done spawning, and that makes them very hungry. So it makes them even more aggressive than they already are. But usually white bass are pretty aggressive. So let me show you some of the tools that I used and how you guys can go about using them. Okay. So first you're going to need some tubes. Now, from what I understand about white bass is they will hit just about anything, but what I noticed about these particular fish that I was on, they really liked this clear like pink tube with this glitter look to it, especially this red glitter and then this red and white. I can link at least two of these tubes in the description that I've found before because I had to order new ones. They would chase these two, and I've had a couple different times where I've caught fish on just like, chartreuse or like this combo. But first you need a tube. These are, if I believe right, they're 1.5 inches. But don't limit yourself to those, and I'll tell you why in a second. Okay, so like I was showing you, these guys right here, these little 1.5 inch tubes, the colors that I have shown right here work. The other thing you're going to need, here is an assortment of jigs. And now this is a big assortment and it's all for different things, but the biggest thing you need is you're going to want a variety of jigs. You don't want just one style. Like, some days you can get away with one, some days you can get away with the other. I'm going to show you what I used that day and specifically why it was working. Okay, so like I was going to say, I will show you one of the ones that I was using often, and I can link these below, is this little sickle hook jig that I painted. It's just got white polka dots on it and it's red. Red, pink, whatever. But it's a 1/16 ounce, I believe. And I mean, if you can see it, it's pretty simple. I paint a lot of my own jigs just because I like doing it myself. I like these specific jigs, and that's why I'll link them below. They are really reliable. They got a really strong shank. They have the ability to like not bend out when you get hooked in like a rough spot and you have to use the pliers to get it out. I have a lot of jigs. You've seen the variety, and some of them have a fine wire, some of them have a heavy gauge wire. When you're white bass fishing, you want a heavy gauge wire because they will wreck your stuff. Because you catch 100 white bass, eventually you bend your hook out and you need to use a new one. Another color I was using was this white with red. That seems to be the going color from over the years that I've fished for white bass is white and red, or red and white, glitter, anything shiny, real shiny. They're like a cat. They want to see it move, and they want to see it get their attention. Once it gets their attention, it's pretty much downhill from there. Once you figure that out, you'll catch fish. But I'll tell you exactly how I was doing it, and we'll get you set up so that you can actually do it yourself. Okay, so the reason I told you in a couple seconds ago, or a minute ago, was basically to not limit yourself to just these. If you can find yourself like a 2-inch or a 3-inch tube, as soon as the water hits about 65 to 70 degrees, you're gonna be probably a little bit more action out of them. It just depends on the fall rate. The big thing with those jigs that I have is they work really well with these size tubes. You can even go lighter with the jigs, like 1/32 ounce would be a good jig to start with. But I'm going to show you the rod that I was using. Alright, I have very limited room in here, but those of you that know that I've got this new Tuned Up Customs Apex rod, and it is a, I believe it's a light, yeah, this is a 7.6 light action, or this one's a 7.2 I believe, but I'm gonna set this down for a second. It's a 7.2 light action. I have an Abu Garcia Revo S10 reel on it, and that specific setup I normally would use for like panfish, but I've noticed one of two things. It's great for throwing slip bobbers, which is actually on it right now, and the other thing is it's really good for feeling those faraway light bites or throwing light jigs. So obviously this is a little tiny bait. If you throw a 1/16 ounce jig head on there, yeah, it's really hard to get it out there if you have like 6-pound test and a short stout rod. So that's my go-to when throwing this now. And I just discovered it this last time out fishing white bass, is it was really easy to get these really far away from the boat, giving me plenty of time to work them in to entice the fish to bite. Now, what I'll do is I'll throw a clip in right after I'm done explaining this. I'll throw in a clip here for a second for you guys to see. What I'm doing is I'm casting it as far out as I can in the direction of wherever my last bite was. Otherwise, it's fan casting. Cast everywhere until you find the fish that you've seen on the surface. Once you find them on the surface, you can kind of follow them around if you're really good at it. Mind you, this is from fishing from a boat. If you're fishing from shore, you got to find out where they stack up. So like if you're on a river or something like that and there's a pool, you have to figure out where they're stopping, where there's a impedance on their upward journey or downward journey, or wherever they're resting and feeding. But mainly on lakes, they're going to be on a wind-blown shoreline. That's a big tip. I'll go into detail on white bass fishing per se, but I'm just trying to get you guys to understand how to use these tubes. So I'll put in that clip right here.
Different on 4-pound test, that's for sure. These are big ones.
Okay, so as you guys can see, basically when I'm retrieving that bait, I'm working it as slow as I can so that these tubes are coming in, and I'll jerk them up like this. So I'll be reeling it in, bring it up, let it drop, bring it up, let it drop. And I try to never let it drop too far, because if it falls too close to the bottom, where I was fishing, there was walleye. What are those called? Man, I had a brain fart. Rock bass, and smallmouth were stacked up in that area. And I was having fun catching the smallmouth too, obviously. And that was a good day. But the main thing I was trying to do was stay in that school of white bass. And they seemed to be in that mid-range column. I think I was in like 10 to 12 feet of water. And they were mid-range. So when you were fishing for them and you jerk it up towards the surface, you try and let it work its way back down to that mid-range and then jerk it away from them again. The key here is the cat and mouse. That's why, like, this one, it's all shiny, and this one, it's glittery and stuff like that. They seem to work a lot better. This was the one that was killing them for the longest time, but I didn't have any replacements, so I had to figure out something. So I went to this one, which they killed that one. I didn't have any replacements. Luckily, I have a bag of these guys, and that one was working really good too. I'm gonna say this is a mimic of a minnow when I was using it, and they love minnows. I mean, if you guys want to go out minnow fishing with these for them, like I said, I'll go into detail on a white bass episode. If you guys want me to go into detail on how to go find and catch white bass, I'll just do a separate video for you guys, and that way you actually have a video based all around how to find and catch white bass. Not just using these tubes. Obviously, I can mention these, but if you've seen this video, obviously you won't need to go over it again. But that clip is basically the epitome of how you get white bass. But with the tubes, that seemed to be the best way to doing it. And the thing with the tube is this. When you're using a tube, what you're going to notice is if you have clear water, which I had clear water, and I was lucky enough the wind laid down long enough for me to understand why they were chasing. I would jerk this and it would create an erratic, motion. So like I would jerk it up, and if I popped it up, sometimes it would pop up and shoot right. But sometimes I would pop it up and it'd pop up and shoot down right away. And because of the erratic emotion, it's an emotional bait, guys. Anyways, it's pretty simple. It looks like a minnow. It mimics something running away from them, and they are just aggressive predators. And that's the big thing about white bass that I like, is they're aggressive and they want to just attack whatever you get in front of them if you move it right. So I hope today's video really helped you guys out. I mean, it's going to be really simple. White bass are kind of a simple creature. They tend to do this thing where either they're feeding or they're not. Like I said, put it in the description, or description. I'll put everything in the description below that I used, so you guys have a list of all the things that I use, so you can go out and do the same thing. Now, if you guys want me to put a video together on how to find white bass, like open water or ice, obviously you've been around for a while. I like ice fishing, so if you want those videos, put them in the comments below, and that way I have an understanding that, yeah, you guys want me to do like an actual, like, how to find them, what you start with, and like kind of go through the process of it. That way you guys can do it too. But otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Obviously, if you are not new here, you know what's up. But if you are new, please just remember to